Hello, listeners. I am so excited because we have our Lotus Chat ladies all in one Zoom tonight, and it is so exciting. So I'm going to ask them if each of them will introduce themselves so that you can meet all of us tonight. So first, let's start with Jen.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jen.
And Zian.
Hi, everyone. I'm Zian here.
Jazzy.
Hi, everyone. It's Jazzy here.
And I'm Laura. I am so excited to have all of us here. You probably remember from last week, we talked, our subject was balancing the inner self. And we talked a lot about that inner peace that we're all looking for, the voices in our heads we want to subside, but the energy, we called it kind of the yin and the yang. We brushed slightly over the masculine and the feminine energies. We wanted to talk about how to bring that all into peace, into neutrality, so that we can go through life without those voices in our heads or the feeling of conflict. And so tonight, what we're going to do is the four of us are going to talk and share about one of the energies, and that's the masculine energy. There are a lot of terms that we can use with that. One could be with masculine energy. Some folks call it the yin. Some folks call it the left brain. But we're calling it the masculine energy because it has some attachment with some words that we're going to use that'll kind of help you understand, oh, that's where I'm at, or that's what happened, or that's what I saw. So we're going to talk about that. And I'm excited to learn tonight because I always learn so much from these ladies. So let's get started. I would really like to pick on Jazzy first. And Jazzy, can you tell us in your words, what is masculine energy and what does it look like? Maybe for the viewer who doesn't really have a definition, they're trying to kind of figure it out. How could I observe that?
First, so masculine energy is yang energy. So this is the structured, the supportive, the logical. As you shared earlier, it's the left brain. It's the analysis, the direction, it's a container. So I know that someone once explained to me that masculine and feminine energy can be explained like a kaleidoscope. So when you have a kaleidoscope, you have the container of which like all the colors are, and the masculine is like the container, and all the different colors and the flow and the creative, all those things on the inside is actually the feminine. So that could look like safety and security. It's what gets things done. It's the action oriented, the thinking side, the doing. And it's also what provides stability in one's life. What else is there? The controlling parts of us. So it's an energy that everyone has. Everyone has a masculine and a feminine side, whether or not. And also within these spaces, we have parts of the masculine that we'll get into later that also we will expose as the shadow side or the wounded side. But Ms. Jen, would you like to add to that?
Sure. You did an excellent job bringing up all the different traits and the different sides of the masculine energy. Yeah, definitely one of the ones that you automatically just said was the one about where you're in a state of more so on the giving. So you're always like the giver when it comes to your relationships, or you're always the one in the doing mode. You go. You're always, doing something and being that sense of support for everybody. But like you mentioned, while there is those good sides where you are in a sense of support, there can be that side of you where you are giving more than you should and thus depleting your own energy. And that's what we're here to talk about, the fact that there are healthy ways that you can use both sides of those energies so that you can come into a state of balance. Zian, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I agree with what you girls were saying, that I think in every woman, there's a lot of masculine energy in us too. It's just to a degree of which spectrum, right? I remember meeting this really feminine lady in a women's conference. And by feminine, I meant that, she was like with this nice big curly hair and she was just very ladylike. And I think we were both strangers. We just met and I was kind of pouring out to her one of my personal problems. And this was her comment that's kind of stuck in my head. And she said like, oh, you just need to be a man. And I was like, what does that even mean? Like, but I suppose in the context of today's topic, I suppose what she meant was that, and I'm interpreting here, right? I suppose what she meant is just, be cool about it. I was definitely in my sensitive, emotional, crying mode, in my perhaps more feminine than masculine. And she's like, you just need to be a man and just be cool about it. I'm like, oh, okay. Then I suppose that's what masculinity is about, just being cool about things and not really showing a very expressive side of ourselves. But what do you think, Laura?
Wow. I think you all did a great job summarizing it. In my world, the masculine energy is what I call the fix it energy. I really don't want to listen. I just want to fix it. I just want to make sure I get it done.
Mhm.
I had a boss that had an abundance of masculine energy, and I would want to go in and just talk through issues. And I mean, I couldn't get 2 sentences into it before he would come back with a way to fix it. And I'm like, I'm not even there yet. So I think, just to summarize the masculine energy, it's the part of us that feels that we have to do, that we have to get there, we have to fix it, we have to make it happen. And the less emotion, the better. And I know these are general statements, but that's the atmosphere of the energy. We all know people like that, and we've seen that in ourselves. Okay, Jen, what does operating in our masculine energy look like? And we all have masculine energy. So what does that look like, especially maybe in us females?
Oh, great question. So when we decided to go into this topic, I immediately started looking into myself and the way that I present myself out in the world. And coming from someone who has always been one who wants to succeed, like I'm on this, trajectory to want to go like here and here and here and here. And I'm always in the state of like doing and anything that will help me get there. I realized that being in my masculine personally means that I am definitely outward focused a lot more times than inwardly focused, which would be the feminine side of me. In terms of women, like when we're in our career head or career mode, immediately everything for me, like I get so focused on it that I oftentimes do forget everything else around me. So that's another thing that sometimes happens with me. Operating from my masculine, I know that I like having a sense of control when it comes to my work. So I'm definitely very perfectionist and disciplined. So all my friends at work say, when Jen's in the zone, don't bother Jen because she's in the zone. So that's like what I feel like for me being in my masculine when it comes to my career is like, I definitely know that I have a tendency to get stuck in my head and just so like focused on that. But I don't know, Deanne, what do you think?
That's great what you just shared. And I was reflecting how I am having all that masculine energy. And I think mom definitely rubbed it off of me. I grew up with a single mom, and mom definitely had that masculine energy, and she's extremely action oriented, and that I definitely get that from her. And I think when I'm in that zone, like you say, I am very solution focused. Everything needs to be, and everything cannot just be left like that. It has to have a follow-up solution. What are we going to do about it? So what's the plan? So I'm not very comfortable in sitting with it for a while, but yes, that would be me in my masculine side. What about you, Laura? I see you laughing there.
I've known you for quite a while, Zian, and I can see but that's good. I, well, I'm going to tell myself, after my divorce, I was raising my son and I was the sole provider, and I was in a masculine dominated career. So I was taking on those fix it, assertive. I didn't want anyone to run me over, so I was going to make sure I put up the wall before that even happened. And because of that, I had a lot of a kind of a harshness because it was masculine energy unchecked. And I remember the first date I went on was complete disaster because I had forgotten, because I was so much in the fix it and control, and I had to do everything, that I had forgotten how to allow someone to do for me. And the hardest thing I learned once I realized I was out of balance was the self-care. Who's got time for self-care? I got to do. So for me, that was a really real learning opportunity. So in me, it was the harshness, the protection of I've got to keep people out because I've got a job to do and they'll just keep me from it. And time was the only thing that I valued because there was never enough of it. How
I
about
can
you, Jess?
totally relate to that, Miss Laura. I totally relate, especially now me entering my phase of single motherhood.
Yeah.
It's like I want to control the situation. I'm very results driven. We've got deadlines. We've got things to do and no BS to take. So that could come off sometimes as like domineering over my own life. Like if anyone, it was difficult to receive. And I guess I'm going to expose myself a bit with what I'm about to share. It is a bit of the shadow side of the masculine. That feels like I didn't have time to be in my feminine. I wasn't going to, maybe, I know with sharing my experience, my journey with you ladies, I mean, like I feel emotions, but I couldn't cry. I was so stuck in my masculine, like there's no time for this, but I could feel them. So there would be judgments. It would be a lot of wariness, in my overanalyzing, psychoanalyzing of my circumstance. And that would lead to a lot of breakdowns within my masculine because I'm not feeling like I'm doing enough. I've got so many things to do, and it's like, but the results have to prove themselves. I have to be here in order for my success to look like a certain way. So, operating my masculine, that led to a lot of burnouts when I was imbalanced with my feminine and my masculine. So, and as I bring this up, I'm curious, ladies, what does how can we bridge the gap from operating from a wounded masculine or into a healthy masculine? Miss Ian?
I don't know. I'm thinking about my mom as we're talking about this, and I suppose she doesn't realize that she's in this huge masculine energy, and there's no really a formal transition into when the masculine energy is less needed and then the feminine energy could come up because it's been suppressed for so long. So now I think when we're all grown up already, I think it's okay to have more of that feminine energy, but she doesn't realize it. So I suppose to help her in that, I could support her more by telling her it's okay. You don't have to do this. We don't have to have any solutions. I want to support you. And allowing her to receive love and not just giving all the time. Yeah. What do you girls think?
I love what you just said, Deanne, when you said it's okay, like allowing somebody to just receive love, because I know for me personally, like I grew up in a household where with very strong women who were doers, who were like, basically, though, I come from a Hispanic family, the women in my family were very just like, we were going to do everything. We're going to cook, we're going to clean, we're going to make sure that the kids are taken care of. We're going to, it was the women who held up the family. And to this day, Like my grandmother is 97, and she, you know, we know that she's taught us so much about what it is to be a powerful, supportive woman. And so in that frame of mind, I grew up with wanting to always provide support to everybody in my family, to a point where I was constantly giving. And then there was that idea that I grew up with my family wanting me to come to a state of like success and excellence in things that I would do. So that included education, that included career, that included all these, you know, things that they wanted me to do. Not to say that it's not bad to want more for your children, but I did feel growing up that there was this push for Jen, you know, it has, you know, you got to be plus. Well, you could have done better. Like I remember in my ear always hearing, you could have done better. And so I was on a consistent, path of wanting to do more and wanting to be better. And so I know where that comes from. And I think part of that bridging of the gap comes with a sense of awareness of where you've been and where you are now, and what makes you who you are right now. So that includes like the people around you, the stuff that you heard growing up. I mean, even like when I look at my brother and him as a man, like what are some things that would have made him feel more at home in being more in his masculine and embracing his feminine? Because I know sometimes men might not feel comfortable with expressing emotion. I know my own father has a bit of trouble expressing his emotions, but again, because he was told at a young age that men go to work, men come home, men are, the women tend to the man, and that's it. That's like the type of life that he's used to. So I can see all these different patterns, and I think that's part of how we can bridge the gap to finding that the healthy masculines, knowing those patterns and knowing where we've come from. Yeah.
Well,
To add to some of that programming about like what the masculine or what your father had to endure, they were also saying things like it wasn't okay to be in your feminine. They, like society didn't give permission for the masculine to be in the feminine. So what you'd have is an imbalance and a natural machismo. Like we have to take, like the men had to take on a machismo. And I think that's where we get to shift as women who have this awareness, is that we get to be the safe space, like in our masculine, we get to be a container for others to heal, for them to, go into their feminine and be authentic and create a space of security for their authenticity. Because vulnerability is I think that's what the world needs, is that, when you can share your vulnerability, we can also lead with humility and know that we don't have to be perfect or be what anyone else says. Like we get to be authentic. So just add.
One of the things as I was listening to you talk is, and this is, we all have pasts, we all learn as a child. It doesn't mean it's bad, because we as adults can change our trajectory. But in my home, I had a mother who, and next week we'll talk about these characteristics, who had characteristics of a wounded feminine. And so what happened to me is my energy said, I don't want to be like that. And so I'm going to be the masculine. I'm going to have those tendencies because I felt I could be more in control. I felt that I could chart my own path. And those are things you think of as a kid. The problem is you don't have the wisdom that we have now. And that's what inner growth and our spiritual journey is all about, to help us see that. And so for me, I saw that the wounded masculine could, for me, really hit me, that it was kind of unchecked. All of that assertiveness, all of that, I've got to be in control. No self-care, no taking care of me. I just got to do. And it wasn't until I just wore out that I said, there's got to be a better way to do this. So I think one of the things about being a wounded masculine and a healthy masculine is knowing what being healthy looks like. And being healthy means that you're balanced. You can take the best of the feminine energy, the best of the masculine energy, and be more of a balanced person. And we'll talk about feminine energy next week. But I think that I hope you as the listeners are kind of getting this, that sometimes we get out of sync. And so when we know ourselves and we can see that, and in me, I could really see that, and I wore out. So then I had to take some steps to kind of regroup. Okay. With that question, I'm going to lead to Jen. What does imbalance look like to you? And how are you aware when there is an imbalance?
For me, being not in, like, how do I know if there's an imbalance within me, since we're referencing like the inner balance episode from last week? In this sense, when it comes to the masculine energy, I know that when I'm in imbalance, when I feel like I am wanting to control everything around me. That's a big one for me. And I know recently that I've come to that awareness because of the wonderful, development courses that I took with all these wonderful ladies here, that helped me become more aware of the fact that I definitely was trying to control my environment when it really isn't up to me. What someone does externally from me is not up to me. What matters is what I do, and what my emotions, like what I allow my emotions to feel. So if I feel triggered, if I feel sad or angry at someone for something they did outside of me, or if I feel really like down about something that went south that I didn't want to go wrong, and I'm trying to hold on to it real tight because I don't want to let it go, I realize that I'm in a state of control rather than a state of surrender. And the masculine side would want to control, the masculine side of me would want to control it, when I should really be in a state of just surrendering, which is that feminine side, and just allowing what is happening to happen. And that has been a big learning experience to all the listeners and viewers out there. If you are someone who wants to, hold on tight to those things, that habit or that pattern or those things in your life that you're like, I need it to be a certain way. It's a practice that you have to practice daily, which is the practice of surrender and receiving and just allowing. But that is my personal experience. Yeah.
I love that, Jen. I can so totally relate with that. And when I know that I want to be in control and I want things to look exactly how I imagine it in my mind, surprisingly, things just don't look exactly what I have in my mind. So that definitely, it's when I know that imbalance is in, and I need to let go and surrender and just, allow things to happen. And then it works out for some miraculous way. Yeah. What about you, Jazzy? How does imbalance look like?
I'd agree. It definitely can feel like, for me, like I want to control or rigidity, or it has to, or I feel like I could be in like, so I'm gonna say it this way, severe competition with myself, or like, that could show up for me, or just feeling dysregulated in my my internals, just being off. That tells me that my masculine could be, could use a little grace, as when a situation could be judged too harshly, when I'm judging a situation too harshly, or an interaction or my own behaviors. Miss Laura, what does it look like for you?
I've shared in my earlier life what it looked like. For me now, what it looks like is I tend to want to avoid situations that I can't be successful at. I tend to want to avoid emotional scenarios that I don't think that I can control. So it's a little bit about control. It's a little bit about avoiding putting myself in that place. And it's also about when I start worrying about things that I don't have an answer for. So those are some of the things that happen to me. And then I start saying, okay, I'm out of balance. This isn't, I'm not looking at this clearly. I'm I've got the defense mechanisms moving here. So that for me, that's
Yeah.
what that looks like.
Sounds like force, not flow.
Yes, exactly. That's a
Yeah.
good word for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's maybe it's less of forcing the flow, but allowing the flow to be the force that moves us.
And I know what that feels like. So there's no excuse other than I'm not paying attention or something has triggered me and I'm not focused on my way of being.
Right. So that's when it's important to kind of allow those moments to be our checkpoint of when we can pause and create something new. Because when we recognize we're being out of character or being out of alignment with ourself and what our intentions are, how can we reestablish stability and create harmony within ourselves and create harmony within our relationships and how we interact? And do we need to revisit something? How can we be truly responsible for our responses and reactions? And I think it starts with definitely just being consciously aware of how we're operating and what part of us are we navigating from. Is it a healthy masculine? Is it the part of the masculine that we could heal? And how can we apply the feminine attributes so that way we can achieve that harmony and that congruency within?
Okay, ladies, we have a quote. And the quote is, when we find our own inner balance of energy, the vibration around us changes. So with that quote, how can we apply this to our inner self and then be a conduit to help others in our world want to heal and find that balance? Who wants to take that one first?
I'll go.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you.
Of course. No, I'm glad that we have this question because as I mentioned in one of what I said previously about my brother and my father, like for me, like being able to learn more about this subject about the masculine and feminine energies within us all is making me want to learn more so that I can be in a state of awareness of myself, but also be able to help the men in my family be able to be comfortable also in their feminine. And I know, like, I'm working with my father right now, and I know he's become way more open now with me and way more emotive of things that he's feeling, because I'll tell my dad, like, I love you, Dad. And now he says, I love you. I knew he loved me. And I think I mentioned this to the ladies in, a while back in one of the episodes where it was really nice to hear my father say those words, even though I knew that he felt that way. But for him to open up the way he did to me in that way, I'm continuously working with him to feel more comfortable. And as we mentioned, it's a practice that you do every day, and you do with those you love, and you try to find ways to support them in balancing those energies out, especially when it comes to, like, the masculine side of them and letting in that feminine side. So that's what I'm going to do every day, is just be there for my brother and my father more.
Thank you, Jen. That was so lovely. And for me, in the context of me and mom, I think I'm just gonna give her more options, trying to support her in any way I could and just give her more options to kind of control her, so that she don't get to over controller side of her, and then just, give her some space and options and support her. What about you, Jency?
How I'd like to be a conduit, and this is a practice, of course, and just conscious effort, is I can be an understanding, respectful container, paying close attention, being devoted to being that safe space, validating the other's experience, whether that's like who I'm dating or my father, my brother, my sister, my friends. It doesn't matter, because we all have that vulnerable side to us. When I create reassurance and I establish that they are cared for, I feel like that's me being a healthy masculine and providing that space. And yeah. What about you, Miss Laura?
Oh, I love this question. I do the opposite of what I used to do. I invest in myself. I provide self-care. I meditate. I pray. I read. I buy myself that outfit within reason that I really, really want, and provide myself that self-care and that self-love. Because when I'm in balance with my masculine and feminine, I'm neutral and I can really focus outside of myself. You're probably thinking out there, but she's talking about self-care and buying an outfit, and how's that looking on the outside world? I think sometimes we focus so much on the outside or the inside that we're out of balance, but when we're in balance, when we're taking care of ourselves and we're open and neutral, but we're also loving to the people on the outside, they feel that. They feel loved, they feel heard, they feel valued. And when we're in that balance, we can love the people around us, we can listen, we can invest in their feelings and in their thoughts, and we can provide them the person or the ear that they need. But we're not going to get that if we're not taking care of ourselves first and being in that balance. So that's something I'm always working on. There are moments that it's out of balance, but it's something that I'm practicing. Any other thoughts for tonight before we close? Any other? I have learned from each of you so much. So Jazzy, why don't you tell us about next week?
Okay, so I guess my final thought is how important it is to check out our previous episode on balancing the inner self, and how important it is for you to check out Embracing the Feminine, which is our next episode. And so that way you have both perspectives and how to navigate, because we can all probably agree that doing the work can be challenging, and you don't know what you don't know. But when you start from little things and start figuring out where it is within your awareness, where you are, love yourself with where you're at, because we're not perfect. We're just progressing. We're working on it. And if you find this to be valuable, then go ahead and follow us on Spotify, subscribe to us on YouTube. We love your support. Go ahead and reach out to us, whether that be on Instagram, through our email, Lotus Chat Worldwide. We are here for you. Thank you for joining us, and so excited to share next week's topic. So wishing you so much love and growth and a happy new year. And that's what I got. That's it. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.